So I'm kind of like analyzing it in the meta as a whole, and I see the popularity of mono white, and I'm kind of looking at my Boros budget warriors deck that I kind of came out with during the Kaldheim release, and I'm kind of looking at it and seeing if it's just as good, if not maybe even slightly better. With that being said, guys, hey everyone, I'm Scar, coming at you with another Magic video. If you like the video, hit that like button. It definitely helps out a lot. If you're new here, want to know when I post new videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into the deck and let's talk about it. Alright, so I mean, this is the list that essentially I gave to you guys back at the release of Kaldheim. I do think there is one minor tweak or two minor tweaks since I last gave you guys the list, and that's kind of because we are playing Snowlands in this deck. We kind of tweak the removal spell, and I also added in Sentinel's Eyes because I've seen how effective it is with, you know, in the mono white deck, and I wanted to kind of try it out here as it being a way to kind of play around, you know, anything that's going to be put into our graveyard as some sort of removal to kind of counterbalance maybe some rogues and things like that. With that being said, the deck is pretty straightforward. We're trying to do, we are playing Warrior Tribal. Every card in the deck that is a creature is a warrior. So essentially what we're doing here is we are kind of playing around our war leader essentially by being our, you know, warrior lord, giving all our warriors +1/+1, as well as we are playing Rally the Ranks as another spell here to kind of bolster our, you know, our warriors that much better, making them give an additional +1/+1 by choosing warrior when this comes into the battlefield. And kind of combine that with something like Usher of the Fallen, which I feel like has been like the best one-drop mono white card at a Kaldheim, I think, overall, with its ability to be a 2/1 threat immediately. On top of it, if we are kind of creature light or we have an off turn on maybe on our turn 2, you can always boast it to gain the additional 1/1 white human soldier creature onto the battlefield to kind of, you know, keep on applying pressure against our opponent. With that being said, I mean, we do have a card called Resolute Strike. It's a 1 mana. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's a warrior, we can attach an equipment to it that we control. So in a way, it's kind of like our way to get anything that maybe like, you know, a Relic Axe or an Embercleave off on a creature that may have been killed off a prior turn, or kind of catch our opponent off guard by just giving our creature additional +2/+2. We're not playing a bunch of them as we are kind of seeing how it plays out, but I do think it's a pretty good card for this style of deck in case we don't have the empty mana. 1 mana is definitely a lot better than paying 2 mana, if not, you know, 3 mana to play an Embercleave. Like I said, next card up is Sentinel's Eyes. It gives our creature +1/+1 and Vigilance. We can always escape it by discarding 2 cards from our exile 2 cards from our graveyard and paying 1 white mana, allowing us to bring back the card onto the battlefield and essentially re-equip it to another creature. Usher of the Fallen, I already kind of went over this. It's just a very solid 1-drop with the 2/1 and the 1/1, and the possibility of creating additional creatures is always good. And since, you know, we are playing on the budget, you know, we don't have castles, so this is definitely a good, you know, castle replacement. So maybe you get some rare cards and get like Castle of Ardenvale. Then after that, we have Fireblade Charger. It is also a Goblin Warrior. It's a 1/1. As long as it's equipped, it has haste, and whenever it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So essentially, this is our way to, you know, put something like a Relic Axe and or an Embercleave on, swing aggressively with it, and then, you know, we throw that damage, whatever its power is, at our opponent's face and or a creature that we want to get rid of. Then we got Frostbite because we are playing Snowlands. We're playing 3 copies of this. It's a 1 mana shock essentially, but we gain the benefit of doing 3 damage if we, you know, have 3 or more snow permits on the battlefield. And with our lands being mostly snow, besides our Axguard Armory, we are definitely going to have a good chance of possibly doing 3 damage with it. Follow that up with Four-Blade Master. It's a 2 mana 1/1 with double strike. Equipped warriors we have double strike. So essentially just making our warriors that much better. We aren't playing a bunch of these just on the basis it's not the strongest creature for 2 mana, but, you know, if we do have some equipments out and then we do play this, it makes us be even more aggressive without having, you know, a bunch of copies of Embercleave. Because, you know, the game only gives you 1, I'm not actually adding more in because we are playing 3 copies of Rally the Ranks. I didn't want to, you know, give you too many rares that you have to invest into initially. I think Rally the Ranks is a pretty good card, especially if you play other tribal decks outside of Warriors. You know, for 2 mana, it's not that bad. There's a lot of Boros decks out there that you can definitely splash this in, or decks that, you know, include some sort of white in it that you could definitely splash this in to definitely give those creatures +1/+1. Then we got Seasoned Hollowblade, which is another great card, I think, overall for Warriors. It's a 3/1, you know, 2 mana card, and we have the ability to discard a card and give it indestructible, which makes it hard for our opponent to remove. Really, the only way they can deal with it is exiling it, or, you know, giving it enough -1/-1, you know, to bring it to 0 or less on its actual total power. I got Cole, the Forge Master. I'm a little unsure about this card, but it's a pretty decent card in that sense. Whenever a non-token creature we control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to our hand. So essentially, it's like our Lurrus of the deck since we're not playing Lurrus. It's a way to get those, you know, cards back into our hand if they were equipped or, you know, had an aura attached to it. And with having something like Sentinel's Eyes or Relic Axe be on the fairly cheap side, there's a good chance that we will have, you know, an equipment on one of our creatures. The other ability here is creature tokens we control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. So, you know, all these warrior tokens we're generating from Usher the Fallen possibly, you know, we'll get additional +1/+1, making that much more of a threat against our opponent. Find that with Rally of the Ranks and or our War Leader, these tokens can get very large fairly quickly. Like I said before, we do have Relic Axe as one of our budget style equipments. It being, you know, a 2-mana equipment with a equip cost of 2. You know, when it comes into the battlefield, we get to automatically equip it to a creature we control. So that's pretty good for 2 mana. And on top of it, equipped creature gets +1/+1. If it's a warrior, it gets +2/+1. Essentially, all our creatures on our deck are warriors. So our creature that we're going to equip it to is immediately going to get +2/+1. Then we got Forging the Tyrate Sword. It's a 3-mana saga. It's an okay saga. I wouldn't say it's anything as good as the rare saga of Boros. But I think it's okay in the sense that it gives us treasure tokens, which allows us to, you know, play a little bit more. Our deck on the most part is fairly on the cheap side, so giving us that additional treasure token to have that 1 additional mana can be very effective. And on the 3rd chapter, we can search our library for a card named Halvar, God of Battle, which we're not playing because we're not playing a bunch of rares in the deck. We're on the budget side, or an equipment, and reveal it, put it into our hand, and shuffle our library. So essentially, you know, when we think we're going to be in a good position to attack aggressively, this is where we could search in for something like an Embercleave if we haven't drawn it yet. Kind of, you know, swing in aggressively and put Embercleave on one of our creatures, and or, you know, if we, you know, don't either Embercleave's in the graveyard or something like that, we can always search for a Relic Axe and do that as well. I already went over Kargan War Leader. It's a 3-mana 3/3, gives all our warriors +1/+1, so essentially making our warriors that much stronger. Embercleave, if you've been playing Magic the Gathering, playing a lot of mono red decks or any decks that have red in them, Embercleave is a very strong equipment because of its ability that it costs less for each creature attacking. On top of that, gives target creature +1/+1, double strike, and trample, so it makes our creature just that much stronger. It makes it harder for our opponent to decide how to block it. The mana base is pretty straightforward. We are playing, I think, 24 lands in the deck, so not too bad. There are two different tap lands in the deck, in the sense we play 9 copies of Plains, 9 copies of Mountains, 4 Alpine Meadows for the splash of red and white, and then we have 1 Axguard Armory, which is kind of like an interesting way for us to search our library for an aura card and or an equipment card, reveal them, put it into our hand, then shuffle our library. You know, it's one of those things that you don't really need, but, you know, it's kind of interesting. I just want to see how it kind of works out. I didn't get a lot of playtest in with it to kind of really use it effectively, but in a worst case scenario where you really want that aggressive equipment, you can always search for your equipment. In my sideboard, which I'll go over after we play our games, I have the cards that you can always look into to possibly upgrading to kind of make the deck better. With that being said, guys, let's dive into some games, kind of see how the deck does, and go with it. All right, our opponent's playing first, and our hand's not the greatest. We do have 2 lands, but the problem is we have a bunch of white cards that require white mana, so we're going to have to mulligan this one because it's not great. All right, this one's better. Sure, we have a tap land, so it's going to play a little bit slower, but overall, it makes our hand overall better. I think we get rid of the Forging the Pirate sound. I don't think it's good in this position. I'd rather keep 3 spells that are going to put some threat on our opponent and kind of go from there. I mean, granted, if I would have put Rally of the Ranks on the bottom, I would have drawn another one. So our opponent's playing something with probably, you know, some sort of teamer deck. We'll see how this goes. We could be in a whole deal of pain just because I've kind of seen how these teamer decks go. So there's a possibility that they may have, you know, a bunch of rares in the deck, which is one of those things that when you are playing budget, rare decks do kind of have that advantage because they outvalue you in that sense. Also, I do apologize that I'm not, you know, using my green screen today. I just wasn't in the mood really to kind of set it up, so I do apologize in that sense. We are gonna, you know, put some pressure on our opponent because it looks like they are playing a deck that that looks like, you know, I think this could be like teamer runes, which is interesting. We will just shock their creature, just kill it, and kind of attack it aggressively. Because that thing can grow pretty big, it's definitely something we want to get rid of. It looks like they are playing 5 colors as well, because it's like they have black, white, and then they have a teamer land, so it is a 5-color deck of some sort. So we do got to watch out for some sort of exile. I mean, the one benefit here is we are getting very lucky on removal. We are just top decking removal, which is probably making our opponent not too happy. So yeah, I mean, that is a thing. And we'll kind of see how this plays out. I mean, I don't know if our opponent's going to want to stick around. The other thing, too, that I'm thinking that this could be, it also could be shrines, but it doesn't look like it, actually. Never mind. I was going to say it could be shrines. I mean, it still could be shrines. I'm part right. And I guess they're trying to find... Oh, I guess they blinked on finding a land from that. So we're going to swing in, see what our opponent does. They're not blocking. Interesting. Yeah, so I mean, we'll create some threats. I don't really care if they kill our creature, but our opponent's now under some pressure because we'll have a big board. And there we go. They honestly didn't have any sort of removal in that sense, because the problem is with our board is that Extinction Event would have been okay for them. I mean, they could have chosen Odd, which would have gotten rid of these two. But I mean, it doesn't really get rid of the Seasoned Hollowblade attacking them for 5 every turn, and it doesn't give them enough time to probably set up their shrines to take advantage of that. Or they didn't have any sort of removal, and then Usher we start pumping out tokens, and that is another thing. All right, we're on the play, and our hand's actually surprisingly pretty decent. We did draw proper lands, so that's good. So we'll keep. Oh, our Polygon shuffled. I should give up now, I guess. They're probably playing Tibalt. Or unless it... You know what it probably is? It's either they're playing Tibalt or they are playing a hand that is kind of on the tight side, because it did seem like they took a minute to kind of figure out what they were doing. Alright, they're also playing white. But we're just going to play Boros instead. Okay. So this is what we're going to do here. We're going to attack aggressively. So we will play Fireblade Charger. We will play Relic Axe. Equip it here. 3/2. These both attack for 6. Alright, that's fair. It looks like our opponent's playing Clerics, so we'll just throw 3 at their face. So we regardless of our creature died, we still got the edge on that one. They're looking at our Hollowblade. We'll just resolve that by discarding a Hollowblade. Giving it indestructible. So that's good. Land's actually good here, because what we can do is we can play Core Blade Master. And then we equip that to here. Our Hollowblade now has double strike, and we're swinging in for 10. And our opponent's now at 4. So I think overall that was a good win there, and we have a card in hand to protect our Hollowblade in case of some sort of removal spell. They are in a predicament in the sense that they need something to kind of stop all the damage. That doesn't help them, unfortunately, in the sense that this has double strike, and all I need is a removal spell. But I do also have Rally the Ranks, which essentially will just give this +1/+1, give it double strike, and then it'll swing it for damage. So our opponent's on the play. Our hand's okay. It's not great. There's no equipments in it, but we do have 2 War Leaders. So I guess we'll keep. Kind of see how we do. We're on the draw, so we do get the card advantage there. Our opponent's playing a deck that has tap lands. Ooh, they're off turn 1, so that's good for us. That means they're not playing aggressively. At least in the sense of they're playing a turn 1 play. They have a 0-cost card in their hand. I'm not sure 100% what the 0-cost card is, but they do. It's because there was a stick, so they have something's holding priority, unless there's someone who likes to hold priority on every single play. Alright, they're playing something with tokens. So my best guess here is that they are playing something like... Crap, I forgot what the card is. It's the snakes, the Stonecoil Serpent. There we go. There's a possibility they can play like a Stonecoil Serpent here, which essentially that will come into battlefield with additional 2+1/+1 counters on it. So there's that possibility. I don't mind this play here. Luminarch, okay, so they're playing Luminarch, which is good for them. I'm not gonna block. The one benefit here is we could War Leader, which would give this +2 +1 +1, essentially giving this, you know, it also attacking back in for 4. So we'll do that. So we'll rush them. And the benefit is next turn if they take it off, they can they may get hit harder without realizing. Because there's a good chance that they may play something here that that we can deal with. They're thinking they're gonna. I mean, personally, I would have spread the counters out. I'm not gonna block. I'll take that damage. All right, the Great Henge is fine. They play another creature. Why did they pay for 3? That's weird. Alright, we're just gonna get out of here because there's too much value on the board. We can't catch up. It's one of those things that, unfortunately, our deck, if it gets outvalued, we are definitely behind very easily. Opponent goes first. Our hand's okay. It's not amazing, but, I mean, guess we'll keep. Alright, they're playing something blue. Opt. Interesting. So they're playing a deck that draws cards, and it's blue. That really narrows it down to the possibilities of what they're playing. Red. Okay. Drawing more cards. I don't know what they're doing because most of the decks I know that play blue and red will play cards to essentially utilize you drawing cards, like the dragon or something. But there's a possibility that they may actually have, you know, not drawn it. So we're just going to do a sequence play here. We're going to force them to react now. Yeah, it's fine. I'll get rid of a Sentinel's Eyes. It has Indestructible, so it's not going to die. Just make them kind of like, you know, sweat a little bit. We'll play another land. We'll play this. Start building up some additional treasure tokens to allow us to play more things. I'm actually going to use one here. Okay, they're drawing again. I feel like they drew a good hand with a bunch of interaction, but they didn't draw anything like creature-wise to kind of slow us down. We're just going to play the Charger. Say go. Yeah, Boros autopay. And turn. The next turn we can do something like a Rally of the Ranks. Okay. Okay. I mean, they have mana open. The only thing I can think them having is like something like a negate. So we might as well play a Rally of the Ranks and see what happens. Warriors. And we're just gonna go into attacks. We're just gonna leave stuff open and kind of see how the game flows. I mean, our opponent let us go into attacks. They could have something like Brazen Borrower, which isn't bad. I mean, you should have played that a turn. You should have played that earlier. It gains Indestructible regardless. So I mean, you can keep on burning it. I'll make you waste 3 burn spells on it. Still hit you in the face. And then we'll say go. See, now the next turn is if they get too aggressive here, we could. I mean, this is where you want to remove it. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, we'll search our library for an equipment card and bring it to our hand. Yeah, I can still actually. Yeah, let's get rid of a land and the Saga. We'll then play this. We'll swing in. It goes down to 5. We will then Ember Cleave, making it an 8/8 or 4/4, hitting him for 8, and it's not tapped. So this makes it awkward for them trying to kill it, just on the basis of they'll get hit in the face for 4. Omen, that's fine. So I'm unsure exactly what their deck does, because they haven't played a single creature, and they've drawn a lot of cards. Okay, 1 shock. Fire Prophecy, I'll throw 4 damage to your face. So you're at 2. So essentially just 1 spell away, or 1, like, you know, burn spell or something away from dying. Okay. They're drawing a lot of cards. What's their deck do? Alright, they're gonna draw 3 cards, putting them at 3 mana. They play threats. They scry 2 and draw a card. Oh my god. I mean, we do have threats in the deck, so they gotta slow us down. Behold the Multiverse. So they have a card that... Wait, did they... I'm so confused. They draw the card? I mean, I'll play it. I may as well make them burn cards in their hand. So play counter spells, play your draw spells. Okay. I'm honestly confused what they're actually gonna do. They're drawing just a bunch of cards. I mean, you'd assume they have Behold the Multiverse. They did like say that for this, right? Oh god, all the scries. They've drawn half their deck already. What does it do? Okay, so they draw a bunch of cards. Do you have removal? You gotta do 4 damage. Alright. 1 shock. Fire. Omen of the Forge. Awesome. Alright, tell me you're gonna draw a threat here. Because you can't go through half your deck and not have a single threat. Wow. What is our opponent playing like Sprite Dragon? Anything to take advantage of all this card draw? Is it like a self mill? Look at my top card. See if you're dead, I guess. You got a counter? Because this kills you if it comes down the battlefield. Okay, fair. Alright, so how do you kill somebody? Like, what is... Do you have a card that you play and you get a bunch of things based on how many spells you have in your graveyard? Because, I mean, we're only X amount of turns in. You have 8 red mana, 4 blue mana. How much more removal do you have? Foretelling. I mean, granted, we're not drawing very well, so this doesn't help us in this situation. Okay. Are you gonna mill yourself? Because you're at 20 cards. I mean, how many more threats do you have? I mean, you got 1 shock, 2, 3. Sure. Wow. I play a fair amount of creatures. It is very awkward when you don't draw them, I guess. Do you have a counter spell? I mean, I have more creatures where this comes from. It doesn't gain haste, so I mean... Sure. I mean, regardless of what I did there, they were going to actually more than likely, they were going to shock it in some sort of way. Alright, tell me you're going to get to something here. Do you do damage to me equal to the amount of cards you've drawn in this game? Various tutelage? Something. Okay. That's fine. I mean, I'll make you waste all your spells. I mean, they're not going towards face, so I honestly don't know where this damage is going to come from. Omen. We're at 14 cards. I don't know. Sure. I mean, do you literally play a card that... I mean, do you play whatchamacallit to kind of essentially, you know, take advantage of having... whatchamacallit? Devotion to Blue? So confused. That's fine. I mean, you're honestly out of removal, right? There's no way. Okay, you play another one. I'm unsure what your deck does. I'm actually unsure if you actually can win a game. Another Behold the Multiverse. I mean, it doesn't help when we just keep on drawing lands, so we're not really being very counterproductive. Name a card. I'm gonna assume Behold the Multiverse. Another land. I mean, I've drawn half my deck. Tell me you got a Behold the Multiverse here. Also, you gotta play it right. Thanks. I'm unsure of what I just witnessed. We're on the play. I guess we'll keep. It's not an amazing hand, but we do have things that we can play, so I guess we'll go with that. Still trying to get over the last game because our opponent literally played their whole deck and just killed our creatures, but didn't kill us. It just makes you kind of like shake your head, kind of like, what did I just witness? Yeah, that's fine. Sure. So our opponent's playing Gruul, it looks like. So they're definitely gonna need some threats. Okay, that's fine. I'll take 3. And now they can't play their giant. That's no blocks. Take another token. That's perfectly fine. We will play our Usher. Then we'll play a good old Rally the Ranks. Give everything even more. Yeah, you probably want to block. So I'm assuming this is Naya. This is like that Naya deck that's been fairly popular this past weekend in tournament scene. At first I thought it was just Gruul, but the Naya deck's been pretty good because it splashes in for whatchamacallit. No blocks. Warrior. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Like, I'm not worried about that. They also don't have a 1/1 net. They either have to play a land to keep this a 1/1. That's fine. Yeah, I know. It's definitely very challenging. I think they're wondering how they want to sequence this. Because I mean, they don't want to attack the Brushfire directly into a Seasoned Hollowblade. Especially the fact that I can give it indestructible, which can be a problem for them. So it's either they play something like a Lovestruck Beast. All right, Showdown of the Skull. That's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm not worried about it. They're not going to be able to play any of them, so that's great. Sure. We'll equip it here. And then we'll just keep the whatchamacallit back. Alright, so they're gonna take it. I mean, we'll just get a 3/3. So, I mean, they can cast, you know, a couple cards in their hand. Alright, this Brushfire is gonna be very big. But I'm not worried about it. Goldspan Dragon, sure. It's gonna produce you a little extra mana. Yeah, sure, go for it. You're gonna get 1 token. But is it gonna save you against the next turn? Do they have another one? Because they're not there yet. I'm at 3. You gotta play a creature, you're dead. Alright, that's fair. You need to have it. So they needed to have it. Opponent goes first. Our hand's okay. Yet again, it's not amazing, but I mean, it's keepable. They're playing a Yorion style deck, so this could be good for us. It could be bad for us. Not 100% sure just yet. So we're gonna make it look like we're playing maybe like mono red. Give them the idea of mono red. Because 5-Blade Charger is a pretty popular card in mono red. So they're gonna have to think about, did I keep the right hand now? Okay. So we gotta think about things like Extinction Event and things like that. I mean, I might as well attack aggressively since their shields are down. Make him want to remove this. So yes, they have to now deal with the equipment and the charger. Because eventually the charger becomes a problem. Like next turn we can take advantage of something like Core Blade Master. And give it something like Double Strike, so if they take the turn off, it could be bad for them. I mean, they only have 2 mana. They didn't slam a 3rd mana, unless they're thinking about what color they want to put on the battlefield. But you'd figure with them being a turn up, essentially in mana. Fine. Alright, so that actually turned out pretty good. So we can draw... we can Frostbite that. Then we can Core Blade Master here, which essentially gives it Double Strike, so we're just swinging them for 6. Just putting that much more pressure on them. And just playing around what they're doing. I mean, they could do something like Extinction Event here, but their deck doesn't seem like it'd be angled to play that, unless they're playing like a Doom Foretold style deck that has a lot of enchantments in it. I don't know. It's something like having a creature in the deck doesn't come off to me like as if they have, like they have board rule. I mean, they could. It just doesn't fit with like what they're trying to do here. Okay. I'm not really scared by it yet. How the Boonat? What are we doing? Part of me wants to like. I could do this, right? Ran over my cord, but we won. My hair's. But yeah, I think that probably caught our opponent off guard. I don't think they were expecting us to do that. And I didn't do the math in my head, but it works. We're on the play. Our hand's okay, so I guess we'll keep. I mean, we don't have third mana, which we can always need to find, but it's not terrible. You know, I just realized we have square sleeves, but when we put the cards on the board, triangles. You know? So our opponent's playing Cyclone, which is interesting. I don't know why they played it that way. I feel like you'd want the Sting around so you can deal damage. Unless our opponent's all gung-ho just to... Yeah, go for it. I don't know. I mean, I'll just sit all day with an indestructible creature on the board then. Okay, so maybe they're not playing Cyclone. They're playing, like, Mill. Can you mill something good? Interesting. Deals damage to a player, you may draw a card. Okay, so they got rid of, like, non-lands, which is good for us. But when you don't draw lands, that's bad for us. I guess we'll just put as much pressure on the board, so we'll just say Warrior. And we'll swing in for 4. So our opponent has to mill us as quickly as possible, is the case right now. I feel like this is what our last opponent really wanted to do. Is really, like, play, mill. Like, I feel like they were missing this card for our one opponent drawing a bunch of cards. But you'd assume if that's what they were playing, they would have played it. Is our opponent analyzing what's going on here? Alright, so they're drawing a bunch of cards. Alright. We're gonna mill. I honestly think we can get them, though. Unless they have a bunch of mill. That's the thing. Like, they need to keep on drawing spells to make us, like, mill cards. But I think we can get them in 20 turns. If our opponent can't do anything here, you know? I mean, if they can't get rid of the creature, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's still gonna get equipped. Alright, so we're gonna mill 2 cards, that's fine. Our opponent does have to play a pretty aggressive strategy here, though, to make us darn lands. Really need those. I mean, next turn we could technically play around a burn spell unless they have multiple. I feel like they're missing Crab, unless Crab's in the deck. They've drawn 20 cards and they haven't played a Crab. So maybe Crab isn't in the deck and they just play a bunch of spells that burn. Our opponent is looking at Season Hollow Blade and be like, crap, I have to really deal with this. All right. They got to go into their mill strategy, I guess. Like, what are they? Okay, they play Stinger. I feel like they should play Stinger. They don't play white, it looks like. I mean, they're getting rid of our lands, which is not great. We're at 30 cards. So can they do enough damage to us? Alright, we got a land. Sweet. Combat. Okay. Blue and a red. Sure. No cards. You have a bounce spell? Because you're sticking on something. Alright, so they're now going to be at... If the damage goes through, I don't really know what's going on here. They're cycling. Alright, that's a strategy. Darn. So they're at 9. So far, so good. I'm not going to need Frostbite, it looks like. Our opponent's not going to try to hit, mill us with Frostbite. Okay. Sure. We milled double now, but I'm not impressed. Like, I'm not worried. I'm not sweating bullets. All right, they're discarding cards to counter. Yep. I guess it's good that we didn't discard these. Sure. Resolve. Resolve. My turn. They're tapped out, which is great. Amazing. The card we needed. The game. Wait, what? Oh, it's not equipped. Darn. It's not equipped! I thought Enchanted was equipped. We are at 17 cards. So they gotta get us somehow. What is it? 6 cards to draw a card and discard a card? Okay. Alright, you're gonna tap out a lot to draw a card. Awesome. I've missed Embercleave, which is unfortunate. Get a land. The problem is they lost either way, unless they have a counter. That's like the big thing. Do they have a 2-mana counter here? Because that means they lose. Can I shock one? And we are back. So, I mean, overall, the deck performed fairly well. I just think it's one of those situations when you play a deck that's definitely on a budget side, you are going to get outvalued. So there is that when it comes to this deck. There was cases, I think, where we just kind of didn't draw into what we needed. It's one of those things where I may want to analyze and see if we play enough creatures, but I do think we do. I mean, just looking at the deck list, we play 4, 7, 9, 13, 15... 19 creatures. So, I mean, that's a fairly good amount with a balance of other things, because I feel like you can't play a bunch of creatures. With that being said, let's look into the sideboard and kind of see where you can go and upgrade. So the one thing I would say right off the bat, just looking at our sideboard, is the fact that Maul the Skyclaves, it's great in mono white. I feel like it would be great in this deck. I feel like you can play some Relic Axes with this. The idea of giving your creature +2/+2 flying and first strike, amazing. I will say this, there's some cards I'm going to skip over. It's just going to be because I think when I first added them, I was kind of like, they were new, might as well put them in there, but now kind of lost favor, so I don't think Resplendent Marshal is one of those cards you want to add. To me, it doesn't really seem like a card that really Sure, it's a warrior. Maybe you can test it out, but I don't really think it's as good as I thought it was going to be. So we're just gonna say scrap it on that. Halvar, I feel like he's a great card in here. You know, when you play equipments, even being able to at the beginning of each combat kind of swap equipments around, also playing him as an equipment is definitely very good. Definitely very versatile. 4 mana, 4/4. Another way to give our creatures double strike. I would say you probably get rid of the Cole in this deck. Just on the basis Cole's not really doing too much. I don't know if you play 2 copies, you add an additional copy, but I would say he's pretty good. Maybe get rid of the core Blade Masters and the Coles and add in 4 Halvars. Just on the idea here, sure, it's legendary, but the basis is that you play one of each side. I think that's very strong. The only niche, I don't think you really need it. I mean, sure, it's a nice foretell card, but it doesn't really seem like it fits the deck, so we'll get rid of that one. Haktos, he's interesting, but I mean, a board wipe of a, you know, exile effect, like a extinction event. You know, it's one of those things you can always mess around with, but I think, you know, you want to keep the deck on the cheaper side, and just having more 4-drops besides Halvar in the deck is probably not the best way. Nahiri, something maybe to mess around with, just on the basis of, there was a couple games there where I kind of didn't really draw into creatures, so her having an ability to just make core warrior creatures can be very good for +1. The -2 is definitely very good because it allows us to dig a little bit into our deck to find a warrior equipment card. And then the -3, if we really need it, you know, it's another way to do some removal, because it deals damage equal to twice the number of equipments we control. So if we're playing an equipment deck, we'll have a good amount there. Showdown of the Skulls, I think, is definitely what I would put in the deck over the Fortune, the Tyrite Sword. The idea here, it helps us dig a little bit deeper into the deck, and then every spell we play on its 2nd and 3rd chapter just gives our creatures +1 counters, which I think is overall very, very good. Winota, I'm on the fence. I mean, we play a little bit of warriors, we play a little bit of humans. I mean, maybe we could play that in the deck, maybe make it a Winota deck. You know, just looking at it, you know, there's Dwarf Warriors, so there's Goblins, there's Spirits. So, I mean, I could see maybe Winota fit in here if you do have a copy, just to kind of help us dig. Maybe find a Kargan or leader. If you put something in like Haktos, maybe as like a one of, then if you're gonna possibly play Winota, is definitely an interesting way. Other than that, there's not really much in here. Amirius Call is, I think, like a definitely very solid card here in the sense that played as a land kind of substitute. And I think it's overall pretty good in the late game if you really draw this. You know, again, 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens, angel warrior creature tokens with flying, and then makes all our non-angel creatures gain indestructible in a turn. So it gives all our warriors like that indestructible protection. So you can attack him very aggressively if you get to this turn. And on the early game, if you really need the white mana, you can always put it in the battlefield as a white mana. The one thing I did not actually add that I would say is always an add in most decks, just because it helps them become very much stronger, is, you know, the pathway that kind of corresponds with the deck itself. Where is the white and black, white and red one? There we go. It just, the alternative art didn't make it look like the white and red one. But I would say add in the pathways, replace the tap lands. Tap lands aren't great, you know, in aggressive decks because you take a turn off in order to play the tap land. But I would say the pathways is a good idea. It just helps us keep aggressive. You know, making sure we can play like a turn 1 Usher of the Fallen, turn 1 Fireblade Charger, even possible turn 1 Frostbite. I mean, the one downfall is if you put pathways in, you do take away from having snowlands in the deck, but I do think the plus of having untapped lands is the benefit, so that's why I would suggest that. With that being said, guys, if you like the video, definitely hit that like button. The other thing too, the deck list will be in the description below like normal, so you can always click on that if you want to import it for yourself and try it out in Arena. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.